Hello and welcome back to my channel. In this video, we are going to be talking about episode 5 of What If, and that is called What If Zombies. To start off with, I did want to mention a couple of my general ideas on this episode, and I must say, it's not my favorite so far. I mean, each episode, I think, in terms of quality, has been getting better and better, but this one in particular, I just felt like after episode 4 and all the interactions that we got with the Watcher that we would be getting even more of him moving forward, and I was a little disappointed that we didn't get that in this episode. Don't get me wrong, the episode is still really good, so if you haven't seen it yet, please check it out. It's a wonderful watch, but just not as good as episode 4 in my opinion. I just wanted some more from the characters that we have in this episode that I knew were gonna be there, specifically with Bruce Banner as well as Peter Parker. I just wanted to see them having a lot more action and potentially be a lot different from their current MCU counterparts, and we didn't really get that. So regardless, if you haven't watched the episode yet, step off right now and we'll jump into the actual episode. So let's talk about Peter Parker. I expected that this version of Peter Parker might be a little bit older. I didn't think originally that this episode was going to take place as soon in the timeline as it did, and I'd hoped that what we were going to get was a version of Peter Parker just being the only human left alive, and then Bruce Banner swoops in because of the dark magic that brings him to Earth. I thought that would be really cool to see because it would be Peter Parker facing off against hordes and hordes and hordes of zombies. More specifically, because of the way that they showed him in terms of the pop vinyls and stuff like that, I thought that he would be Peter Parker, as well as potentially having picked up some magic prowess over his time in the zombie apocalypse. Maybe he was trained a little bit by Doctor Strange before, or some other sorcerer before losing his abilities, and then he ends up getting Doctor Strange's cape. I also believed that there was a possibility that this version of Peter Parker would have a lot more in terms of his accessories. I thought he would have a lot more remnants of different Avengers and mementos to the people that he once looked up to. I thought that would have been really, really cool, and the reason that this is so different from what we get in the actual episode is because I suspected that the zombie apocalypse would have been happening for a lot longer than 2 weeks in this timeline, but because of that was all thrown out the window, so all of my thinking as to what could have potentially happened was just misplaced. Also, before we keep going, I did also want to mention what else I thought this Peter Parker would have, and that is, I assumed that he would actually have been a zombie at one point and then touched the Mind Stone. And then from there, maybe he just got his mind back, but was still actually a zombie. I would have thought it would have been cool for him to have Captain America's shield at some point, and even during the episode I was thinking, oh, how cool would it be if he grabbed Cap's shield when he shows up later on in the episode. Obviously that's not what we get in this episode. I mean, that's just what I had in my brain, and though it was very different from the story that we actually get in the episode, I just like to think that that's another what if possibility that is laying about somewhere in the vast multiverse. Let's actually talk about this version of Peter Parker that we get in the episode. First off, because Tom Holland wasn't playing the character, I wasn't certain if this was the same Peter Parker that we knew or if there were more changes that we would hear about throughout the episode, but it doesn't seem to be the case. It seems like this is just the MCU's Spider-Man, and I think Tom Holland just isn't playing the voice for this role. Totally fine, it's just the feel of the character felt a little bit different as well because of that difference, and I think it showed a little bit to me, and it almost felt like a different version of Peter Parker that just had a similar backstory to the version that we already knew. You could also say that that works because we have the zombie apocalypse going on. Perhaps that's changed Peter's personality more than we really get to see in the episode. I like to think this is just a completely different version of the character. Next, let's talk about Wanda and Vision. So for the characters that are zombified, I didn't expect them to actually have their abilities throughout the episode, and that's not the case here, and that proves to create some very, very terrifying characters. Specifically, we have Wanda Maximoff, who is probably the most powerful character on planet Earth in the MCU at the moment, and I would even say that that includes Captain Marvel. I think that her potential and abilities moving forward are probably on the highest level. The closest to her would probably be Doctor Strange at that point. Also, that goes to show just how OP having magic is going to be in this universe. I mean, why doesn't everyone just learn magic? I feel like that's just the way to go about things. If you want to get really, really powerful, learn magic and you'll be good. That being said, Vision in this episode is completely crazy. I mean, he decides that the best thing to do is kidnap my friends and chop them up to feed Wanda. I mean, you could have grabbed anyone. You could have grabbed random people, but you chose the people that actually know you and people who actually trust you. Why would you do that? That makes it so much worse. I mean, if you're going to do something that horrendous, I mean, I feel like it would make much more sense at the very least to people that you don't have some type of emotional connection with. And being on the same team, being an Avenger with a lot of these people, I feel like that should constitute a relationship that you would not want to so easily break. That being said, I mean, the feelings that Wanda and Vision share are a complete mystery to Vision, considering he is not actually human and he is a robot, right? So it is kind of understandable that he doesn't really understand how to express his emotions and his vulnerabilities in this way. But it's still crazy to think about because he's basically on a terrible path that is not so different from his creator, Ultron. Also, Wanda in this episode is the most terrifying creature in this entire episode. Absolutely fantastic to see her use chaos magic while being undead, and it was just really, really cool to see. And the fight that we actually get between her and Bruce Banner, I do want to know how that's actually going to go for Bruce, because Bruce is the strongest there is. Hulk is the strongest character physically, but at the same time, Wanda has chaos magic. She can mind control people, manipulate a lot of things. So I'm not sure if her as a zombie without maybe her full mental faculties is a factor here, or if Wanda is just fully capable of what she was originally in the main MCU timeline. I'm not sure about that, but regardless, I do want to see what a physical battle between these two characters would have actually been, and it is unfortunate that we don't actually get to see the entire fight. Also, did anyone else want to see a much more overpowered version of Bruce Banner or overpowered version of the Hulk appear in this episode? I mean, I suspected that we were going to get a version of the Hulk that was akin to this comic book that I read way back when, where Bruce Banner is the last man on Earth. And this is similar to the thought process I had for what was going to happen with Peter, but in the story with the Hulk, it's basically the world is infested with large bugs, and basically all of humanity is gone, and all that's left are these insects, and the last man alive is Bruce Banner. He ages, but he's unable to die because the Hulk keeps keeping him alive with his healing factor through basically being effectively immortal. And I thought it would have been really, really cool to see this insanely powerful version of the Hulk just fighting and being torn up, healing and fighting again all day, every day in this universe. I mean, again, with the Hulk appearances in What If, I just want more. I want so much more, and I want an insanely powerful version of the Hulk beyond what we have seen in the MCU so far. I want creatures like the Immortal Hulk. I want creatures or versions of the Hulk like World Breaker Hulk to appear. I mean, this is the place to do it if you're not going to do it in a Hulk film, which you can't. If you're not going to do it in the MCU, if you're not going to properly do Professor Hulk, if you're not going to properly do the World Breaker, do it here. You can do it here. I mean, I just want to see this in action. So if they're going to do it anywhere, it has to be in this series. If they're not going to do it in the main MCU timeline, and I am waiting for the day for that to happen. So again, I was a little let down that they didn't do something absolutely bonkers with the Bruce Banner character. I would have liked to see a little bit more from that, and I think that maybe that has to do with the point in time which this story takes place. It's where the Hulk isn't really wanting to come out because he feels like Bruce is only using him to punch his way out of problems. I mean, we could have also seen the sad version of the Hulk. I think his name is like Claw or something like that. Or Claw? Yeah, Claw. Where it's like the Hulk hulks out and then gets really sad. So, I mean, again, they could do anything in this series, and I think doing some craziness with the Hulk is definitely worthwhile. It would be awesome for me because the Hulk is probably one of my favorite characters from Marvel. Finally, let's talk about that final scene within this story, and that is Thanos. I don't know how he got this virus. I don't understand. Did the Cole Obsidian or the Black Order go back and visit him after becoming zombies? Did they just decide to leave the world? I guess so. I mean, it seems like they have some level of intuitive understanding of their abilities. Potentially, they have some understanding of their past, so maybe they knew how to navigate the ship back to Thanos once they became zombies. I have no idea, but I also don't know if they died at the beginning of that episode. I'm not certain. So if they did die, I have no idea how Thanos became a zombie. I hope we get to see what happens next, because what we're going to probably see, if we ever see these characters again, is Thanos coming to Earth as a zombie, breaking into Wakanda, getting all of the stones, and like, what is he possibly going to do once he has all the stones? Also, how the heck was Thanos so weak even with the Infinity Gauntlet that he couldn't reverse the effects of this virus? Or why couldn't he prevent himself from getting bitten? I'm not sure. I feel like that's a bit weird to me, but hey, it's just a way to make this episode terrifying in the end. So yeah, that's all I really have to say for this video. It was enjoyable. Definitely not my favorite episode, especially compared to episode 4. That is still my all-time favorite out of anything to come out of Disney Plus' Marvel TV shows. But that being said, what did you guys think of this episode? Let me know in the comments below. If you liked the video, please like the video and subscribe for more from me on this channel. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.